Hey everybody, welcome back to Triangle Be Well TV for the Tribe of Well. I'm Howard Jacobson, your host, and I'm joined in the studio today, as always, by esteemed producer Amnon Nissan. How
Hello,
you
Howard.
doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are things?
Things are fine.
Awesome. I see.
Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy festival with the leaves and the fruit and the
Sukkot.
stuff. That's the one. That's the one. Did you catch the moon last night?
No,
It was big. It was big and sort of yellowish, and it's called the hunter's moon or something like that, which feels not very plant-based, but there you go. So got some guests for your entertainment and edification today. I'm joined in the studio by Cut to Lacey Althouse and Scott Whitrock. Hi guys.
Hi.
Hello.
So here we are being forced not to look at each other and pretend to make eye contact, because if we do, it goes weird like this. So but we're gonna have a great conversation. I met Lacey and Scott. What was it, like half a year ago, maybe?
Yeah.
You guys were down
Spring.
visit. Oops, I did it. Don't do it. I did it. I visited. You guys were visiting from New York down here in North Carolina, and then I saw you yesterday at the Raleigh Veg Fest, and you guys have moved down here.
Yes.
Yes, we have.
So we got a lot to talk about. We first started chatting. You have this awesome, beautiful blog, forkfuloflove.com,
Right? That's right.
and you guys are sort of like hip. Are you millennials or Gen X?
We are.
Somewhere in there.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
millennials.
Millennia-ish.
Yeah.
And you're into the plant-based lifestyle, and you are really into like social media and all this stuff that I basically sort of half understand. I can look at a camera, and if Amnon tells me which one's on, I can look into the right one. But I want to kind of get a state of plant-based life, plant-based world from the upcoming generation, and from a little bit of an urban and also urban to North Carolina perspective. So why don't we start by you guys just telling us a little bit about yourselves and your journey.
Well, we do have I've been writing for a blog with my mom called Forkful of Love, and something that is kind of interesting about the blog is that my mom is plant-based, but she's in her 60s, and I'm plant-based, and I'm in my 30s. But it's something that my family discovered recently. We had been vegetarian before, but I actually found the plant-based lifestyle when I was just really overworked and burnout. I was living in Brooklyn. I was working in Manhattan. I worked really long hours. I did a lot of events. The lifestyle of I think a lot of people in that kind of work is you're fueled by coffee in the morning, and maybe you're snacking on like fancy cheeses at an event if you're lucky. It's not necessarily a really like healthy lifestyle, but it requires a lot of energy. So I wanted to get my energy from authentic sources, and I wanted to have fuel throughout my day that didn't send me into crashing, and I wanted to have a little more control over the way I felt, because sometimes I didn't have control over things like the hours that I worked at the time. And what I actually found is by changing my situation and doing something different for myself, I actually I feel like overall made a better impact on the organization I was working for, and then later on my career shifted, and I found that eating healthy and just doing something good for me actually really helped me to be more successful overall.
And Scott, what about you?
Yeah, so my kind of journey into the plant-based lifestyle was, it kind of started a few years ago. I kind of came from a very processed foods diet right out of college, eating a lot of fast food, and kind of realizing just how bad I felt all the time. So I really kind of started down this journey as a gradual progression. And I think anybody who looking to make a change, I think it's really important to kind of view a change kind of on that spectrum. For some people, doing like a hard cut might work. For me, it didn't necessarily. So because it's been something that I want to, progress to a lifestyle and not just, a short-term diet. So I slowly just kind of started changing how I ate, eating less like meats and just a little bit of fish every once in a while, kind of transitioning away from that. But it's, for me at that time, I was on the road quite a bit for work. I was traveling, and that made it definitely hard because the world right now isn't necessarily 100% supportive of a plant-based lifestyle. Even at times, it's not super supportive of even just a vegetarian lifestyle. In that there's just not a ton of options out there. So at that time in my life, I actually had just met Lacey and was starting to get to know her, and she was actually a really great resource for me to be able to to learn more about kind of the plant-based lifestyle and what sort of resources were out there, because it was really hard to find. I like to cook, and just finding recipes that were plant-based and had the right ingredients in them was a challenge, as well as kind of just knowing what to make, what sort of ingredients to buy. I didn't really know like about quinoa at the time as like a really great grain, which Lacey introduced me to. More recently, she's introduced me to the idea of egg replacements via flaxseed and water. Mix a little bit of that together, and you have like a binding agent for pancakes. And we can still make a pretty good brunch on the weekends, with pancakes and some tempeh bacon. So I think my progression has been over the few years. It's really been kind of helped by having a partner who spends a lot more of her time thinking about the plant-based lifestyle.
That's great, because very often, I'm wondering, Lacey, if you were worried about a divided kitchen, like
Good point. Well,
some he's like I can change him. Like those are dangerous words sometimes.
So this is actually kind of interesting that you asked this question, because when I was actually transitioning from a vegetarian to a really plant-based diet when I first met Scott, but I was doing it gradually because it's kind of like it takes a little while to get a hang of, and I was learning things kind of like one step at a time. So I would try, when I learned reasons why I wanted to give up dairy and why that probably wasn't working with my body, I did that first. And then, I continued to make other changes, and then, figuring out processed foods and oil and sugar, that was it was a journey for me. So I met Scott when I was in the middle of that journey, and he actually really loved it about me, which was a really exciting thing. And I think an important lesson for me out of all of this, sometimes when you make really big changes in your life, not everyone is willing to grow with you, but I don't think that should stop your own growth. There are always other people out there that you can find who are interested in what you're doing, or interested in improving themselves, or just really open-minded to making it work with someone who's different than them. I mean, that's basically everything anyway, be it food or anything else. So I think that I never actually really had that problem. I've read a lot about this. I've read about, I think especially for women, women get on these more healthy eating diets, and then they have a hard time kind of getting their partner, getting their maybe male partner on board, or whoever you're living with. It can be hard. And I was actually living with roommates for a long part of this journey, and that was something to navigate too, but not necessarily always challenging, sometimes quite rewarding. I think when the thing about plant-based food is that plant-based food is still food. So it's not, it's something tasty and healthy that everyone can enjoy. And maybe people aren't thinking of all these foods as their main dish, but there's certainly an entry point there where you can share with someone something that you're making that you like and that they can also enjoy. That's a really good way to, I think, reach out.
I really like that the comment about the kitchen, because it's definitely something that, you know, it is like a conversation point at times. And I think one of the things that really like worked for us was that there's just like a bit of understanding between us around like our diets and our choices. And I think because we both were on kind of a progression, we were both very, very sympathetic towards each other, because it's like nobody's perfect. And, you know, the worst thing that you can do is having, you know, a partner or somebody who's in your life kind of checking in on you every day and being like, oh, are you setting out to achieve your goals? And I think one of the things that we really kind of established, and I know, you know, there were times where I had expressed interest, and I'm like, hey, Lacey, I need to eat healthier. Can you help me with these things? I have a huge soda addiction. And there were many times where I'm like, hey, do you want to just like go to the, you know, like convenience store with me and like, hey, let's go pick out what are some good replacements. And she kind of did like an audit of my day to day, which was great. But then if I did go in and I grabbed that soda, you know, she didn't make any comments, which was really helpful, because those are things that everybody has their weak moments, and you need to understand that with your partner. Like, nobody's perfect. So
That's such a complicated thing to navigate, because in my mind, I'm going, okay, this person, you know, let's call her my wife, has said many times like she wants help to adopt a new habit or something. Or I would say the same thing to her, like, you know, really, I want you to help me eat more mindfully, because I'm tired of like standing over the stove and eating with a large wooden spoon,
Oh yeah.
for example, as a purely hypothetical situation. And then when I'm doing it, and she goes, do you really want to stand over the stove with that large wooden spoon, or would you rather have a bowl? And I'm like, leave me alone. like you know, we say that we want that kind of help, but in the moment, and it's very tricky to have a pure, you know, what they call in the coaching jargon world, a come from. Like if it's like, you know, you sure you want you told me to come here because we're going to get some healthy sodas, and you're really going to grab that, like, you know, Coke Zero or whatever it is. It's so hard to be in their service without bringing up kind of your own stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really helped for me was actually just being vocal about when I needed help and wanted help, and when I didn't. You know, there were times where I feel like I've actually said, you know, like we're at a store and I'll be like, okay, I need you to help me by not helping me right now. And just having that communication, I think, is like really helpful, to be like, you know what, I know that I'm making a bad decision right now, and I'm all right with that because I'm really stressed out right now. And, you know, when that happens, you know, having that conversation away from that point of when you're standing over the stove with the spoon in your hand is the best way to kind of like go about having those conversations, I feel, because versus like in the exact moment, because then it's just, it gets heated, and that's not fun for anybody.
Well, I think that food is very personal, and something that if you've changed your diet at all, you've probably experienced some level of scrutiny. So it doesn't matter kind of like on what side of the table you're at. If you're trying to eat healthier, or if you are not a very healthy eater and don't care, you've probably experienced the same type of scrutiny across the you know, for both parties. So like for me, when I started eating healthier, there were actually years of my life where I really wanted to kind of make the next step. I wanted to give up dairy, but I was like always with like my girlfriends who wanted to go out and get ice cream, and I didn't want to make anyone feel bad. So I made choices that weren't best for myself in order to make others around me feel better, and just to kind of like fit in a little better. And you know, it is quite possible that if you, I don't know, go out to eat with a friend and you order a really healthy salad, that you make them feel like, you know, if they're in the mood for something more indulgent, that they made the wrong choice. But the same happens in reverse. So I think if you just kind of remember that and just like show compassion to every eater you're with, and I mean, it's okay to eat different things together at the same time. And that's actually why I think like it's really important for restaurants and just like the world in general to kind of shift to offer more inclusive options everywhere, so that people can still enjoy the company of eating together and still be able to make their own choices. I think that's important. just because you're eating with someone who's maybe not where you are now doesn't mean they'll never get there. I mean, I think it's also kind of like valuable to lead by example. If you're always ordering something different than someone else that you eat a lot with, and they're seeing the improvement that you're making in your life, that's a way better inspiration to them than anything that you could say. And then you never risk hurting their feelings because they come to it when they're ready.
Yeah, I found one thing that's really helped is when I got really okay with my own diet, like I wasn't struggling anymore, there were a whole series of temptations that I was able to sort of overcome. Like I just got really clear, like these are my rules, this is what I do, and I no longer felt vulnerable to other people's pressure. Then I became a lot less of an asshole to them. Like
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. Like I thought I was helping them, but I was just projecting my own fear of slippage
Yeah.
onto them.
I think especially that time when somebody's first kind of like transitioning or making a change in their diet, it's probably the hardest time. I remember a moment where, I was just becoming vegetarian and was, on and off again, maybe like 1 week, it's like, oh, I'd have some like meat or like what have you. And, there was a time where it was like a company party and they had like pizza. And, it's like I just walked up and like grabbed a slice that had like a pepperoni, and somebody looked up at me and was like, aren't you vegetarian? And it's like, how do you respond to that? It's like, it's like, well, I'm trying to be, but it's, for other people just to kind of ask those like blunt questions is very challenging. It's the same way if like somebody is like deciding not to work out or something and you're like, why aren't you exercising today? It's like just having like some understanding of when people are transitioning that it is a transition.
Right. Although when I work with coaching clients, the number one problem they have is sort of family get-togethers, social situations where they say, this is where I will fall down because this is what everyone expects it of me. I don't want to rock the boat. And one of the things that I tell people and I got this through my affiliation with an association with Josh Lajani, is who is an N of one in the Cajun world where it's all about food and drink and happy, and so like that's precisely the place where I'm most interested in being like really tight with my diet, because because though somebody else is looking to you and then they're seeing you eat, like you don't know. Like maybe they're judging you, or maybe they were like really hoping you would succeed so they could follow you. Like there's a bar that when people know you're trying to accomplish something. It's almost like this, like it's like this like a series of Jewish laws where, you're not supposed to not be kosher, but especially if you're wearing, the yarmulke that says you're like an observant Jew, you may not go to these restaurants. You sort of have to live up to a higher standard. Not to say that you don't have the right to sort of transition however you want, but there's a sense in which if you feel the peer pressure, you can almost flip it around and make it a different kind of pressure.
That's definitely true, and I've seen that side as well. Because once I was more open with people, and people once I told people like, hey, I'm trying to be vegetarian, when I was eating around them, it was kind of like my own mental note, like, oh, I've got to be strong because I told this person like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, so better do it.
Right. I did an interview for the Plant Yourself podcast this morning with Dr. Chad Teeters, who's a cardiologist up in Rochester, New York, who in April of this year weighed over 300 pounds and at that point adopted a plant-based diet. And he says, my greatest fear is that one of my patients will catch me eating like a Five Guys burger. So in order to not have that come true, I don't eat it. I just don't, I don't want to lead them astray, and I don't want to be found out for a hypocrite.
Yeah, I think the accountability piece is challenging. I think that if there's a reason that you're doing this, be it weight loss, like you just discussed, or for me, like just like fuel, getting through your day, energy. Illness prevention is a really big motivator. If you have some bigger motivator. I think that kind of helps, but I mean, I think it's also important to realize that like it might not go perfectly all the time, and you might not be perfect all the time, and that doesn't mean that you know, don't keep trying the next day, or don't make edits, or don't see, you know, think about, well, why is it that, you know, I feel this way, and how can I improve that situation so I don't find myself in it again.
So we're talking about sort of accountability and peer pressure. You guys have put yourselves out there. I don't know, I think maybe probably Lacey a little bit more than Scott, you know, in the public facing, but you got a blog, you do interviews with people, you're like, you've decided with your mom to be a face of the movement. First of all, how did that start? What was the kitchen table conversation that led to like creating a blog that was like a huge time suck, I'm sure?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just as far as inspiration, I mean, Howard, like your research and your work to share life-changing health information with the world through your books. I mean, your co-author T. Colin Campbell was kind of how I stumbled upon this lifestyle. I was actually practicing yoga at the time, and I found a book at my yoga center that spoke a lot about eating a healthy diet and eating, just increasing your amounts of greens. I started drinking green smoothies in the morning, and I actually found that they were way more energizing than coffee. So it, you know, for me, like just like trying it out made it really worthwhile and seemed like, oh, this is like really something for me. And then just I kept reading, and when I read Dr. Campbell's book, The China Study, which was I decided to take his online course. And so my parents, I'm actually really lucky, and I was thinking about this when we were talking about that whole, you know, what do you do when you get together with your family, and making these, like, you know, how to keep the changes we've made. But I was lucky because I was raised in a vegetarian household. My parents were always really interested in health, and they were always willing to try something new, even though they both came from very, especially my father, he's German, came from like a very kind of heavy, buttery sort of traditional diet, but always open to change. And I actually sent them one of my like early lectures when I did the program with T. Colin Campbell, and they called me and they were like, we've been doing this for 2 weeks and we really love it. So that was like a nice surprise that just kind of like felt, you know, it happened upon me. And I just loved, so at the time I was living in New York, and I was in an environment where there's a lot of trends. There's a lot of plant-based eating. There's a lot of influencers, which would be like people who post a lot on social media about what they're eating, what they're doing, what their lifestyle's like. And so there is, you know, veganism is definitely like a trend in New York, and a lot of really cool shops and eateries were popping up that were attracting certain type of person. When I first started my plant-based diet, when I was working the kinks out and just trying to figure out how to fit it into my life, I ate out a lot. But I was in a place where I could eat and still have like most of the boxes checked. So that's kind of where I like started. Where my mom started from this place where she lives in central Pennsylvania, actually in an area that's like really well known for dairy farming. So this diet was extremely unique to people around my mom, maybe even somewhat radical. And she had to do most all of her cooking at home without the influences of like the cookbooks and chefs and kind of modern millennial facing perhaps foodie kind of influences that I had living in a big city. So we both really had a unique perspective on how to do the plant-based diet. And both of us are like honest to goodness regular people. We both my mom and I had like full-time jobs that were sometimes full-time plus, and we made meals in 5 minutes or less, and we didn't follow recipes, and we made mistakes all the time, but we made this happen. We felt like there was a lot that people could learn from watching like two imperfect people with really different backgrounds and influences like trying to make this happen. So that's kind of how that started. And then also I was really lucky that
So did she know what like blogs were and like how I'm trying to picture like the moment is, hey, let's do a blog. You know, what?
Well, I think the moment is that all of us, Scott included, we were having Thanksgiving dinner, and my mom was cooking, and it was the first time. Well, actually, the first year I was plant-based, my parents made a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner for me, and then later told me that when I left for New York, they went out and had like a turkey dinner out at a restaurant. And but by the second year I was doing it, we all had this vegan Thanksgiving together, and it was really nice. And we just felt like, you know, here are a couple like quick dishes that are easy to make that, you know, Thanksgiving is actually a really great holiday for plant-based cooking because it's one of the holidays where people look forward to a lot of the sides. So we were able to make a lot of really like tasty oil-free versions of some of our favorites, and we took a lot of pictures, and Scott is a really talented technologist, and he knew how to get us set up to blog really easily and taught us how to do it. And we were just like, let's just post. Our very first post is called like our veggie Christmas feast or something like that. And it was taking all of those like Thanksgiving and Christmas influenced sides and putting all of our pictures somewhere online and just talking about how we made it just like you would normally make it, but just basically omit the things that don't really like serve you or the body. And that's kind of how it all started.
Amnon, what's on your mind?
I was just wondering, so does that mean that if you take a turkey and you don't put oil on it and stuff,
right,
it's
right.
okay?
Well, we skipped on the turkey.
Yeah.
I think we had
I guess it's not okay.
we tried a tofurkey that year.
I gotta. I'm known as Mr. Loophole. If you don't spell it out, he's gonna drive his truck through it.
Right.
No
Exactly.
turkey, no.
No, right.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun kind
Good,
of seeing the
good try.
Yeah, like the progression of like the blog as it's kind of gone forward over like the years. I think one of the things that I remember early on that you talked a lot about was just around having basically a platform to be able to share like with friends who you maybe don't necessarily want to have that conversation while you're having
Right.
dinner.
Yeah, that was a big
because
part
that's
of it.
always like an awkward like conversation when you sit down and they're like, oh, what are you eating? And it's like, oh, well, it's a plant-based meal. And they're like, oh, what about that? And then, you know, you can be like, well, do you got 20 minutes? Do you got an hour? I can tell you all about it. So this was like an easy way when we're out at dinner with maybe not necessarily with like acquaintances or somebody that maybe aren't as close that you really want to go into the details with. You can be like, oh, well, this is why I do it. You can check out our blog and also see why we do it, as well as see, you know, different easy recipes as to how we go about doing it, because a lot of the stuff out there that I think that we saw was like these immaculate cookbooks that were like you had to be a gourmet chef to be able to do half of these recipes. And I know you really talked a lot about wanting it to be like an everyday blog. You know, anybody could come in.
Accessible.
Accessible.
Why wouldn't you want to get into it when you sit to eat a meal with other people? What's the reason that you don't want to get into it? I would think it's a perfect opportunity.
Well, I mean, from an advocacy standpoint, probably is a good opportunity to share ideas with people. But kind of like what I was talking about before is I think it's really, like, I never want to make someone I don't want anyone to feel bad about what they're eating. I don't want anyone to feel like they can't eat with me because they're eating something different. And like I was saying, like, I've been through some scrutiny when I've made changes with my diet, and I don't think anyone should go through that. If they can on their own make the choice to read my blog and learn more about what I'm eating and why, and then they want to talk to me, that's ideal for me, because then I know that they really want the information and they are looking for something to help them make a change, and I'm not, you know, talking about them about something that they're maybe not ready for, or it's just not the time.
Sometimes you just want to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great way to save money is to never be invited back to a restaurant because you're the person who talks about the food the whole time. You know, and then and, you know, you live in the plant-based world, you adopt certain linguistic habits, like you start referring to like dairy as, you know, bovine secretions,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
right? I mean, and also, you know, especially once you're doing it pro or semi-pro, like you just want to shut up. Like, you know, like you going out to dinner for on a social event, and then people all they want to talk about is, you know, how much RAM they need to run something on their PC. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to.
Yeah.
Maybe you do, but I don't think so. I think you want to be well-rounded and have a life too.
That's a really good way to put it, because everybody's been in those situations where you have that one friend that just talks about that one thing over and over again to death, and it's like you also, like, from an advocacy point, yeah, that's great, but from a friendship point, from a relationship point, like, you don't want to, you know, turn people off of you just because you're really on like one obsessed with one topic, and that could be for
Right.
anything.
I think also if you know, act as if it's normal, it helps it to become more normalized, which is something that I want to see, you know, big picture, long term. Like, if we can get to the place where a lot of this information is things that people can, that a lot of people know, that's great. Then it's not weird at all to be eating healthy. It's just normal.
I think one of the things, like, we're talking about just being from New York, and one of the trends that I think that we saw and talked a little bit about recently has been kind of, especially in our friends, there's been a little bit of a shift in terms of how people view vegan and plant-based food, from like a diet to almost a cuisine. You know, when you're talking about going out to eat, it's like, well, what do you want? Do you want pizza? Do you want, Chinese? Do you want vegan? And that's been kind of inspiring to see, because it's kind of it's normalizing it a lot more, and, bringing it into, in vogue. There's a few restaurants in New York that are opening up that are, the hottest places to go because they're, plant-based. And even here in Raleigh, it's been really awesome to see both Fiction Kitchen and Living Kitchen open up and be packed, like, all the times, because they're serving really good plant-based food.
Yeah. Amnon, have you been to either of those?
I was just thinking, no, fiction?
Fiction Kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why fiction? I don't get that. Why is it fiction?
Stop that. They might become a sponsor. Think bottom line here, man.
No, I have not.
It's easy to remember. If you go, why fiction? Then you'll remember the name the next time
It's
you're
not
thinking
there.
of it.
That's true.
Yeah. So
Why would I go? It's not there.
Oh, it's fiction.
It's a really good Southern comfort food.
And I guess Living Kitchen is more focused on the health food end of the spectrum.
It's
Yeah,
plant-based and mostly raw.
Mostly raw. All
and
right.
really good. As well.
I would really think that for this type of business, they're probably making more money because they don't have. I mean, I would think that meats will cost a whole lot more than the plant-based foods,
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
it takes less of a budget to run it, and it's something, it's something that's it's up and coming. It's still not there, but it's going to get more and more and more.
We're talking about
Thanks to
budgets
people like you too.
and kind of just like going out with friends and like normalizing things. That was one thing that was kind of also, you go out with a friends, bunch of, maybe they're a group of people who eat meat, and those dishes always tend to be a lot more expensive. So it's like, if you're out with a group of like 5-10 people and you're getting like, a vegetarian dish, it's like, half the price. And then everybody's like, oh, let's just split it down the middle. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah.
But you also see, like, when you're talking about normalizing it, if you have this heterogeneous group of friends, and one of the slurs on plant-based or vegan or vegetarian is that we eat sticks and bark, and we're sad, and like we have cottage cheese and grapefruit, and so when you like your meat eating friends, like there's like three things they can have, right? They can have the chicken, the fish, or the beef. You know, maybe if it's exotic, lamb,
Right.
or or some seafood or something. But when you're eating plant-based, even if you're not trying to make it into a haute cuisine, even if you're just like I eat very, very simple fare at home, but there's a tremendous amount of variety. There's all the different grains, there's all the different beans, there's always new vegetables and new fruits and things, and you're curious because they kind of look good on the shelf. It's not like a slab of bloody meat where you go,
Yeah.
boy, I really need a lot of imagination to imagine that thing looking like palatable.
Oh, it tastes so much better too, I think.
One of the things that I think really, because I love
Those
cooking at
foods.
home,
Veggie foods.
yeah, no problem, is what's the delivery service that we,
Oh, we've really been liking this service called Purple Carrot
Purple Carrot,
that delivers in this area.
and it really helped with that side of it, which was trying to understand what you could do with veggies. For somebody like myself, I've been vegetarian for 4 or 5 years, and like I said, it does take a little bit of time to learn how to cook with different vegetables, because that's not necessarily the more typical palate. Growing up, my parents were kind of like a meat and potatoes family, so I didn't know what a lot of those veggies were. And using like a service that comes in, they basically give you a meal and the instructions to make it, and it's kind of, you never really know what you're going to get necessarily, and it's different vegetables that I've never cooked with before, but now they're becoming part of like just my normal grocery trip.
Yeah, it's amazing how, you'd think that if you see a recipe and you see the picture of the food and they tell you, where in the supermarket to get it, or you can order it, like you'd be able to do it. But there's such a huge learning gap, like a mental obstacle. Like, I don't know, is this the right size? How do I peel it? Whatever. And then when it comes and you actually get to handle it, I remember like the first time, I was working in New York in probably 1999, and my boss was eating much better than me. And one day, we went, and he was like explaining, what do I have for lunch? Well, I'll steam a sweet potato, I'll cut it up and put it on a steamer basket, throw some kale on that, and then get some hummus or something like that, whatever, hummus. And like, okay. And I didn't do it for like 6 months. Then one day we were working, we went over to his place and he did it, and he like showed me, and I was like, oh, well, that's easy. And I'm thinking like, well, what wasn't easy before that? And so to get the Purple Carrot, to get the recipe cards, I guess they have videos.
Yeah.
Hey, another
Yeah.
potential sponsor, Andy,
Yeah.
if you're listening. Yeah.
A comment here about Thanksgiving. So Carl, I thought the point of Thanksgiving was to hate yourself and be surrounded by annoying relatives. Is this Carl, or does that sound like somebody we know?
That's pretty funny.
Well, we have to find out if my son is typing in under an assumed name,
Oh.
which he doesn't.
Well,
Oh.
I think that's pretty funny. I think that there is like, I will say, in all seriousness, about the whole holiday thing, is like, it is hard to change your expectations around traditions, because they happen the same way every year. But changing tradition is actually extremely freeing, because a lot of people, I think, do suffer through holidays and family get-togethers, and these are supposed to be some of the most joyful times of the year. And I think that if you, instead of just going along with it, in whatever situation you're trying to change about these get-togethers, if you honestly talk about what should be changed and why, you could in fact change it, and then these things are now fun, and they should be, because you certainly worked hard all year to get that time off.
Yeah, there's something in management consulting known as like the Abilene Paradox,
Okay.
which is I'm not sure where it comes from exactly, but the story is there's 4 people sitting on the porch in rural Texas, and somebody says, hey, it's like 103 degrees, everybody's bored, nothing to do, and someone says, hey, we could go to Abilene, and someone else says, yeah, we could, yeah, that's good, and they all go to Abilene, They have a miserable time. They come back, and later they debrief, and they realize nobody wanted to go to Abilene. The first person just said it to say something, and then everybody else just thought everybody else wanted to do it, so they all did it. And I think, like it's not like half of your family is really enjoying it, and they're oblivious to the fact that there's tension, or that you're miserable, or that drunk Uncle Donnie is saying those things again. It's like everybody knows it, but everybody's afraid to say something.
Yeah.
So, so if you can't like change everything, just like changing the food, changing some part of the dynamic can kind of free everything up, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so here's a question, right? Like, do you even like turkey? Think about a lot of these traditional foods that we eat every year. Like, do we really like it, or is it really worth maybe the way we feel afterwards? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting. If you feel that you really truly do like it, I don't want to tell you otherwise. But I think,
How am I going to sleep through those damn football games if, if I'm not stuffed on turkey? Right?
Yeah, chamomile tea. I don't know. but yeah, I mean, I think that like you have to decide what you truly like. I mean, I was really into Greek yogurt and honey, and that was like my like kind of treat during the day work snack. But I had all this basically constantly lived in a state of an upset stomach. And I would constantly have to cancel on my friends when we had like really great plans after work because I felt like I needed a taxi cab and a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. And so when I actually cut out the Greek yogurt, it was easy to replace it with tons of other treats that still were satisfying, that were, non-dairy, plant-based, and like gave me a better feeling afterwards. So it's probably a good idea in anything you're doing at some point to do like an audit. Like, do I really like these things, or am I just doing it because I do them every year, or because I do it every day at 12, or because I've never tried anything else different?
Yeah. So someone who's been a big influence on me lately is Ray Cronice. Do you know about him?
I don't.
He's the guy who got Penn Jillette to lose like half his body weight.
Oh, really?
So he's like a NASA scientist. I don't know his full bio, but he's like crazy mad scientist genius. He was featured. He first came to public acknowledgement around health because he was featured in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Body. And at that point,
yeah.
he was losing weight through cold therapy, immersing cold showers and like this idea that was it Michael Phelps would like eat 8,000 calories a day and wouldn't gain weight even though it was like a terrible diet. And he's like, well, how's he doing that? It's not swimming is not. Oh, it's the cold water.
Yeah.
So he gradually has like moved away from that, and he's written a book that's going to be coming out any day or week now called Our Broken Plate. And his thing is like, we make food the center of every social experience, and it doesn't need to be that way. Like, can we be with people because we enjoy them and because we enjoy what we're doing? And we don't like, why when people come over, we always worry about food. Like, oh, what are we going to serve them? What are we? Oh, it's from 3 to 5. Are they expecting dinner? Are they expecting snacks? What about drinks? Is it bring your own? And it's like, can we just, like human beings, evolutionarily, easily would go 3-4 days without eating, not because they wanted to, but they kind of had to. And there's definite health benefits to not getting your 3 squares a day 24/7.
But then they'll go kill a buffalo and eat it for 2 days.
Yeah, or find the patch of yams. Believe me,
North Carolina,
if you're really hungry, if you don't have, look, I ran a 50K. And I was like practically mainlining this like maltodextrin glucose syrup, and after about 2.5 hours, my leg muscles were screaming for nutrition. If you don't eat for 3 days, the last thing you're going to want to do is persistence hunt. Like, you're just going to set snares and hope something fumbles into it, or you're going to go walk and you're going to look for food that isn't going to run away or attack you back.
So how would you snare a yam?
You sing the Popeye song, and they can't resist. No, so back to the lofty discussion we were having.
Well, so I am kind of interested when you said about, even like we don't have to have our 3 square meals a day. I'm curious, like, I mean, that's something that I like do still struggle with, though. Even though I've changed a lot of the content of my meals, it is really hard to change your habits around eating, and it is very hard to, I think, reach that level of connection with your body when you know when you're really hungry and not just like bored or upset or needing to fit in or any other motivation. So, like, what are your kind of thoughts about like maybe I don't like ideal eating as far as like behaviors?
Well, I think it's idiosyncratic and it varies. But as I talked about at the Veg Fest yesterday, I think discomfort is a very good friend of ours. So we just had the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, in the Jewish calendar, where you don't eat for 25 and a half hours or so. And one of the things that you realize when you're fasting, and now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and you're sitting in synagogue and you're bored out of your mind, forgive me, Lord, that that food then becomes not something like I need it for sustenance, but like I'm bored, or oh, we just said that, or then you're home in the afternoon for like 4 or 5 hours, and so your kitchen is right there, and then you realize, oh, I just had a frustrating thought. Oh, look, I just reached for a Twizzler or an apple or something. That we use food to self-medicate our emotions, and I think the only the way to do it is to like tough out a period of time, like skip a meal, like don't do it when you're going to need to do a presentation to close a sale, but skip a meal and see what it's like, and we err on the side of overeating all the time, so we're going to have to err on the side of undereating a little bit. And by the way, I'm preparing a talk for next week on cancer. And so I've been doing a lot of research into the ketogenic diet, which like plant-based people hate because it's almost like an all-fat diet, because it's very, cancer cells are much weaker than our vibrant human body cells, our healthy cells. And so if you and they can't metabolize fat into fuel, so the theory goes, and there's some evidence for it, that an all fat, which is typically can basically be an all animal foods, fatty animal foods and oils diet, can help with cancer. So why would that work when we know from T. Colin Campbell's work on the China study and so many other studies that animal foods raise the risk of cancer? And it's because a ketogenic diet is essentially a starvation diet that you can maintain for a while. It's not that the animal products are good, it's that it's fasting. If you could fast long enough that your cancer dies before you do, then you're going to be healthy. So, and one of the reasons that a ketogenic diet, that mimics fasting is good is because all throughout human history until recently, we had to fast a lot. That we didn't have caloric excess, that we did skip meals a lot, that we did sometimes go a day or 2 or 3 without eating, and our bodies adapted to that and actually got better because of it. So the little proto-cancers and the neoplasms that began to arise in our bodies didn't have a chance to take off because we were starving them, because we were semi-starving ourselves. So there's a lot of good reasons to think about intermittent fasting, even if it's not, I don't recommend doing it for weight loss. Like, there's the 5-2 diet where you basically fast 2 days a week, or very, very calorie restricted. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's useful for that, but just to kind of, toughen the F up a little bit and be willing to be in some discomfort so that, I remember being at a high school reunion and at the meal, and I was talking to people and having fun and seeing, 30th reunion, hadn't seen them in a long time, and there was a buffet, and I got like out of the corner of my eye that things were starting to go down in the buffet, and I had to deal with the fact, like, the feeling that came up in me was, I'm gonna die. If I don't stop talking to these people and run to the buffet right now and fill my plate so the things are basically falling off the sides, I'm dead. And I had to kind of live with that and play with that feeling for a while to realize, how irrational is that? The evening's only going to go on another 2 hours. There's a Whole Foods 4 blocks away. But if we don't go there, then we're terrified of going there.
We're Muslims during Ramadan for a whole month. Fast throughout
Yeah.
the day.
Great.
Yeah, fasting is. I think every culture has fasts. It has classes of foods you don't eat, so that you're trained to have some self-discipline. It has classes of people who do a lot of fasting, and it has parts, times when everybody fasts. And it seems like a very, very natural, universal human trait.
I can say I've only tried something. I did a juice cleanse for a few days. It's probably the closest thing to a true fast. And while I don't know if I really felt much healthier at the end of it, I did feel a lot stronger. And I think that it really helped to, like just understand like what I could go through. And that the sensation when you were talking about before, like seeing the buffet pile like slowly going down and like fearing for your life. Well, if you really push yourself to your limits for a couple days, like you realize that no, I'm not actually going to die if I don't get to that buffet table. And I think that was one thing that really helped me to understand that a lot more.
So I wanted to ask you guys about your experience. You moved from the urban jungle of Brooklyn / Manhattan, where there's 24/7 food options. There's vegan, there's healthy, there's every kind of delivery service. And now you guys are in like the wilds of suburban Raleigh. All right. So what are the challenges, and what have you found surprisingly easy and available?
Well, for what we were just on top, like everything we just talked about before, kind of speaks to the fact that like excess isn't always good. So in New York, there was typically a vegan, really tasty vegan or plant-based options or healthy options or access to a Whole Foods, basically anywhere I ever was at any time when I was living in New York. But that wasn't always a good thing. It was a convenient thing. But you can get, I absolutely advocate for a plant-based diet. I think it's a superior diet for health and just like the way you feel and productivity and all that stuff. But there is too much of a good thing. So I think it's kind of interesting that you asked that question right after we were talking about this like problem of excess as far as food. We live in downtown Raleigh right now, and I like it. I think the city is really growing. I think that we're finding a lot of like-minded people here, beyond diet, there are things that we care about. We both work for tech startups, and we love to ride our bike. We wanted to be in a city where that was somewhat walkable and bikeable, and it's kind of cool to see that happening in Raleigh and seeing things changing to include that even more. So those things have all been really great. And another thing about New York that was kind of challenging for me, so it was a city where there was, it was easy to be active. I love that part of it. But your activity was being done in like also an area that has like just really poor like air quality and a lot of pollution. Some of my friends that did do a lot of running like along the West Side Highway and things like that would often talk about worrying about breathing deeply, like when you're being exposed to this kind, like all this kind of stuff, and then the life there can sometimes be toxic too. I always had jobs where I worked really long hours in really competitive environments, and there were things about those situations that pushed me, but there are things about those situations that I don't think were very healthy. There's other ways to be healthy, right, emotionally, and I think stress. There have been times when I've been in high stress situations when I've actually been eating my best, and I haven't been seeing the results I was looking for because of those other factors. So I wanted to live in a place where there's a lot of opportunity, but where the pace of life was a little slower, and I wanted the opportunity to be able to make food at home. And real estate in New York is really expensive. We've always I've always been lucky. I've always really liked the homes I had in New York, but it's really expensive to upgrade kitchens and bathrooms. So I typically lived in apartments. I always lived in apartments where the kitchen was a place you didn't want to spend a lot of time in or cook in.
Or blogging.
or blogging.
Yeah.
Right?
So are you still blogging now in Raleigh?
Yeah, I have
So-
been. I post once a week on Thursdays, and then we're on Instagram and Twitter, which is an opportunity for me to give more daily updates into what I'm doing and working on.
So tell people how they can find you and follow you and what they're going to get.
Sure. Well, the website, everything we do is under our name, Forkful of Love. It's Forkful with one L. And so we're at Forkful of Love on Instagram and Twitter. We're also, we have a business page on Facebook.
Yep.
And then our website is just forkfuloflove.com. And that's where you can find us online.
And I think what they get is, I think on Instagram you get beautiful pictures of inspiring food.
Yes.
On the blog you post a lot about usually like a recipe as well as information about a little bit more in depth besides just like a recipe or an idea. Really good muffin recipes on there. Search banana muffins; they're fantastic.
Daryl is asking what's the difference between yams and sweet potatoes, and then Carl is saying that Daryl is the ale.
Okay. So all in the family. The main difference between yams and sweet potatoes occurs when you're doing crossword puzzles. We'll leave it there for now. All right. Well, I think that's a great way to go out. So, Lacey and Scott, welcome to the neighborhood. It's
Thank you.
so great to have you here. The blog again, Forkful, 1L, of love.com. Beautiful pictures, inspiration for a kind of urban, semi-urban, plant-based lifestyle where you're not driving people crazy. You know, I mean, one of the things that I find very endearing about you is that there's like a no judgment zone. Oops, I'm doing the wrong thing. There you are. I wasn't even on. A no judgment zone around you guys, that there's nothing anybody's doing that you find terrible or offensive or shameworthy, and so it's really easy to listen to you, to follow you, to take your advice, and to just join you on this fun and vibrant journey you're on.
Oh,
So, plant-based food.
Plant-based.
Plant-based
Yes.
doesn't mean the chicken processing plant or the pig processing plant.
No,
Right?
Well, that's what.
that's right.
That's what
Correct.
Jack LaLanne said. If it comes from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, avoid it.
Oh, I
Okay.
like that.
That's a
Like
good
that
one.
lot. Yeah.
All right, so give you guys a chance to say your goodbyes and any
Well, I also
final
wanna-
thoughts.
I want to mention that on our blog we have a really great interview with Howard. So there's even more wonderful things to learn about Howard. So you should
Right,
check that out.
so if anyone who's following me isn't sick of me yet, you can get more of me there. That was very sweet of you to.
Well, thanks for having us on. This is a lot of fun to come on and chat about our plant-based lives.
Cool,
Yes, thank you, Howard.
Yeah, I think we've opened Amnon's mind, if not to the diet, then to the number of people he can fit in his studio. And
That's right.
for everybody else, I'm not going to give you the phone number to call in because it's too late for that, but you can try again next week. I do want to say that we have coming up another run of the Big Change program with me and Josh Lajani, and if you want to find out about it, you can. We haven't put up the new description yet, but if you go to bigchangeprogram.com, you can see the sales letter for the old one, and we'll be putting up the new one as soon as we figure out what the times are. And it's for anyone who wants to make a big change in your life that's largely health-based, that starts with wanting to lose weight, gain energy, get off meds, start an athletic pursuit. We're having the time of our lives, and we're going to do it again. This is the last one we're offering in 2016. So if you want to make a big change and you don't want to rely on the New Year's resolution, yo-yo, up and down, try it and fail. If you want proven strategies with a community that's really, really smart and supportive, check out bigchangeprogram.com. If you'd like to be alerted when we open the doors, you can go to plantyourself.com and sign up to get the newsletter, and that's where I will release the information about when it's open, how long registration will be open, all the details, etc. So bigchangeprogram.com and plantyourself.com. Go sign up, give me your name and email, and we'll get that information out to you. Thank you, as always, to Amnon, esteemed producer.
You're welcome.
Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. And everybody else, have a fabulous week. Have a fabulous October. I'll see you next time. And as always, be well, my friends.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.